Whenever we sit down to write some code, we're faced with this really fundamental choice, maybe without even realizing it. And that choice is, when should the program do its thinking? Should it figure out everything it possibly can up front before it even starts running, or should it be more flexible and make decisions on the fly as it's executing? This single choice creates two totally distinct worlds, compile time and runtime. So let's dive in and explore this trade-off, because it's right at the very heart of how all of our software is built.
Okay, here's a simple way to think about it. Are you the kind of person who lays out all your clothes the night before work, or do you just scramble in the morning and grab whatever's clean? See, one approach takes planning, but it saves you time and stress when you're in a rush. The other is way more flexible, but hey, you might discover you've got no clean socks when you're already 10 minutes late. This is the exact same trade-off that's at the core of how programming languages are designed. So what are these two phases, really? Well, compile time is the blueprint phase. This is where a special program called a compiler takes your human-readable code and translates it into something the machine can actually understand. It's kind of like a super strict editor, catching all your spelling and grammar mistakes, or in our world, syntax and type errors. Runtime, on the other hand, well, that's showtime. This is when the translated code is actually running, doing its thing, interacting with the system. And this is where you'll find those much trickier logical bugs, like trying to divide by 0 or realizing a file you need isn't there. And this fundamental divide, it brings us to a really crucial concept called binding time. Now, binding is just a fancy word for associating a name with something, like binding a variable name to a specific type or a function name to a memory address. When that binding happens is maybe the single biggest factor that separates the entire philosophy of one programming language from another.
On one side of the divide, you've got early binding. This is the signature move of static languages like C++. Here, if you declare a variable as an integer, man, it is an integer forever. The compiler locks that decision in, checks all your work up front to make sure you're not doing anything weird, and because there are no surprises later, it can generate incredibly fast, highly optimized code. It knows exactly what it's dealing with from the get-go. This approach is all about prioritizing safety and raw performance. And on the complete other side, you've got late binding. Welcome to the world of dynamic languages like Python. Here, a variable can hold an integer one moment and a string the next. This is all powered by a philosophy called duck typing, and you've probably heard of it. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, then for all intents and purposes, it's a duck. The system just doesn't care about its official type, only whether it can do what you're asking it to do at that exact moment. The trade-off? You get this incredible flexibility, and you can develop things super fast, but you do lose some of that raw performance and the upfront safety checks. But hold on, what if you want a bit of both? What if you want the best of both worlds? Well, that's where just-in-time compilation, or JIT, comes into the picture. It's this really clever hybrid model used by languages like Java and pretty much all modern JavaScript engines that tries to give you the flexibility of a dynamic language with the speed of compiled code.
So how does this magic actually work? It's a really fascinating process. The system starts off by just interpreting the code, kind of like a dynamic language. But at the same time, it's watching. It's profiling the program as it runs, and it's looking for what we call hot paths. These are the loops and functions that get used over and over and over again. Then, on the fly, while your program is running, it compiles just those sections into super optimized native machine code. It's a system that literally learns and adapts, using real-time information to make smarter optimization choices than a purely static compiler ever could. It's pretty cool.
This brings us to a really modern way of thinking about all of this. Instead of just seeing the compiler as a simple translator, there's a growing movement to reframe it as a powerful coprocessor. The whole idea is to aggressively push as much work as humanly possible into that compile time phase. But why? Why would we want to do all that heavy lifting up front?
Well, there are three huge reasons. First, ultimate performance. It's simple. Any calculation the compiler does is a calculation the user's CPU doesn't have to do later. Second, fortified correctness. You can actually write checks that the compiler verifies, proving that entire categories of bugs are just impossible in your code. And third, and this is what many people consider the holy grail of modern language design, zero-cost abstractions. This just means you can write beautiful, high-level, expressive code that's easy for us humans to read, and you can trust the compiler to boil it all down to the fastest possible machine code with absolutely zero runtime penalty. And this leads to an even deeper point. It's not just about making your code run faster. It's about making it fundamentally safer. By using the power of the compiler to enforce rules and check your logic, you get what's being called zero-cost reliability. You're literally eliminating bugs before the program is even built, which, as you can imagine, is a massive win for creating robust, dependable software. Okay, so how do languages actually do this? This practice of writing code that runs at compile time is called metaprogramming, and we're going to take a quick look at 3 languages that are right on the cutting edge of this idea: C++, NIM, and Zig, and you'll see each one has its own totally unique philosophy.
So just at a glance, you can see their different approaches. C++'s system has evolved over decades, giving you this layered set of tools like templates and something called const fait peer. NIM takes a much more radical route. It basically gives you the keys to the kingdom with macros that let you directly manipulate your code structure. And then there's Zig, which opts for this beautiful simplicity with a single unified concept called comp time. 3 very different paths to the exact same goal.
C++'s journey here is just fascinating. It started with something called template metaprogramming, which was incredibly powerful, but, oh man, it was notoriously difficult to write and even harder to debug. Then, C++11 came along and gave us const eval, which was a total game changer. It finally let developers write compile-time code using normal, everyday C++ syntax. And more recently, C++20 added const eval to give you an absolute ironclad guarantee that a function will run at compile time, no exceptions. NIM's approach is for the pragmatist who wants maximum power. Its macros don't just work with values. They receive the actual structure of your code, what's called an abstract syntax tree, or AST. Think of the AST as the DNA of your code. This means a macro can analyze your code, understand it, and then literally rewrite it or generate totally new code from scratch. It's an unbelievably powerful tool for wiping out boilerplate and creating your own custom domain-specific languages right inside NIM itself.
And then you have Zig, with its incredibly elegant and simple philosophy. It just gets rid of all the different tools, the preprocessor, macros, templates, and gives you just one, the com time keyword. Any block of code can be marked to run at compile time, period. What's more, types are treated as first-class values. This means writing a generic list is no different than writing a normal function. You just pass a type in as an argument. It's a beautifully simple and unified concept that's really easy to reason about.
But you know, all this incredible power, it doesn't come for free. Pushing all this work to the compiler has some very real-world trade-offs, and it's forcing the 2 worlds of programming, static and dynamic, to start looking a lot more like each other.
This chart here illustrates that fundamental trade-off perfectly. Static languages that do a ton of work at compile time give you incredible runtime performance, but you pay for it, sometimes dearly, with longer build times. Dynamic languages have the exact opposite profile. They're super quick to get up and running, but it's the machine that pays the performance price at runtime. As they say, there's no free lunch.
And beyond just waiting for builds, there are other hidden costs for us, the developers. First, the build time bottleneck can be severe. I mean, in large C++ projects, a small change can trigger a rebuild that takes minutes, sometimes even hours. Second is the debugging challenge. Your standard debugger can't help you debug code that's running inside the compiler itself. And finally, there's the cognitive load. You often have to think in 2 completely different modes, one for your runtime logic and a completely different one for your compile time logic. But what's really fascinating is how these 2 worlds are starting to converge. To deal with the challenges of building huge applications, dynamic languages are now borrowing ideas from the static world. I mean, look at the massive success of TypeScript, which adds a fantastic type system to JavaScript, or Python's optional type hints. They're both adding a layer of compile time safety to a foundation that was once purely dynamic.
And it's not a one-way street. The convergence is happening from the other direction too. Static languages like C++ and Zig are using their powerful compile time features to become way more expressive and flexible. They can automate away boilerplate code and enable patterns that look a lot like reflection, mimicking the agility that was once the exclusive domain of dynamic languages. And this really reveals the grand ambition driving language design today. The goal isn't just to make static languages a little more flexible or dynamic ones a little bit safer. It's about finding that perfect balance. It's about creating tools that give us the rock-solid safety and bare-metal speed of static compilation, but with the developer-friendly flexibility and expressiveness that we love from dynamic languages. It's really about getting the best of both worlds.
So this leaves us with a final thought to chew on. As these 2 philosophies continue to merge and we push more and more intelligence into the build process, the role of the compiler is fundamentally changing. It's no longer just some passive translator that turns our text into machine code.
It's becoming an active, intelligent partner in the very act of creating software. And the real question is, what are we going to build with that new partnership?